Hello everyone, I am back. My name is Vanessa. The name of this channel is called Gnostic Knowledge, and what I am doing on this channel is spreading the knowledge of gematria. Gematria is the encoding of numbers within our letters, so every word we speak has a numerical value. I am going to be reading from the book Number Games 9/11 to Coronavirus, which is Zachary K. Hubbard's latest book, and I will be continuing in chapter 2. And at the end of the video, at the end of the reading, I will tell you how to get both of his books, Letters and Numbers and Number Games. But in the meantime, this is the book I am going to be reading, but I will be reading it in the PDF file format. And I will be beginning in chapter 2 on page 46. And chapter 2 is entitled 1968, Year of the Coronavirus and 9/11 Master Plan. Okay, so and I just want to continue here. If you're not familiar with what a false flag is, it is when someone else uses pirate tactics, flying a flag that is not their own, but of an enemy, and doing something terrible, okay, so that the terrible act will be blamed on the enemy whose flag was used. This was done when the U.S. bombed Pearl Harbor with its own military, but with planes that had the flag of Japan painted on their sides, giving the cabal leverage to get the people of the United States behind the idea of joining World War II against Germany and Japan. That historical false flag is not much different than how on 9/11, the new Pearl Harbor as it is called, the U.S. and its allies, Israel and Saudi Arabia, attacked the World Trade Centers, the Pentagon, and the minds of the people of the world, so that the atrocities could be blamed on a region of the world that was ripe for invading. Of course, this region is ripe with resources, including oil, the opium that is now flooding the streets of the U.S. in the form of heroin, and the mountains of Afghanistan that are full of the resources needed to make the computers and phones we use today. On the subject of false flag, it should be noted that it sums to 33 with Pythagorean gematria, the same as Hawaii. Again, the World Trade Centers were attacked after existing for 33 years, and the attack on them was a catalyst for war, the same as the attack on Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. Furthermore, both Pearl Harbor and order out of chaos equate in gematria terms, and Pearl Harbor also equates with World War. Even further, both World War and Pearl Harbor equate with Art of War, the Jesuit translated text on military tactics. Okay, as I will continuously remind you of in the pages ahead, the U.S. Civil War began on April 12th, 1861, the 102nd day of the year. The 9/11 attacks were said to have lasted 102 minutes, and both World War and Art of War equate to 102. To further illustrate how entertainment ties in with the world of recorded history, here is a Hollywood film titled there is a Hollywood film titled Glass that was released at the beginning of 2019. It is about a terrorist who wants to demolish brand new skyscrapers reminiscent of the World Trade Centers. In the film, they are having their grand opening on December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day. The name of the fictional buildings are the Osaka Tower, referencing the Japanese city of Osaka. These details in the fictional movie are how the cabal gets their laughs, taking advantage of a public that is still largely sound asleep and not able to connect the obvious dots of history. What isn't as obvious about the riddle is the title glass, summing to 58 with simple English and 77 with reverse simple English. Okay? The number 77 was extremely important in the September 11th, 2001 ritual where Flight 77 hit the 77-foot tall Pentagon on the 77th meridian west, exactly 77 minutes after taking off, where according to the 9/11 Commission report, the plane took off at 8:20 a.m. and crashed at 9:37 a.m., adding to the number 77 list. September 11th and World Trade Center both sum to 77. Using Pythagorean gematria, as does the phrase order from chaos, a tactic of the Jesuits as well as Masons that is also sometimes worded order out of chaos. At the same time, United States and Secret Society sum to 77 using reverse Pythagorean. In light of the name of the country summing to 77, keep in mind the 77th meridian west that cuts through the nation's capital is nicknamed the American Meridian. Furthermore, construction on the Pentagon began September 11, 1941, with emphasis on the year 41 since USA sums to 41 in simple English, and the 9/11 attack occurred on a 41 date numerology, reminding us that Pearl Harbor was attacked December 7, 1941. Tying the events together even more closely, the Hollywood film Pearl Harbor, released May 25, 2001, a span of 110 days from the 110-story World Trade Center's demise on September 11th. This is similar to how the George Floyd murder pre-trial began September 11th, a span of 110 days from his May 25, 2020 killing in Minnesota, equating to 110. For a bit more on entertainment and pro sports being used as part of the cabal's web of deceit, mockery, and misinformation, think about the New York Jet, Mo Lewis, wrecking the quarterback Drew Bledsoe of the New England Patriots, who wore number 11 right after the September 11th, 2001 attacks. This occurred September 23rd, 2001, 12 days after the attack, giving rise to Tom Brady, who still wears the number 12 all these years later, and the New England Patriots in the time of the Patriot Act. Do I dare mention Tom Brady was born in 77? To appreciate the script, you must recognize that the Patriot Act became effective October 26, 2001, 45 days after the attack. This matters because Patriot sums to 45 with reverse Pythagorean, and New England sums to 45 in the same cipher and also with regular Pythagorean gematria. Furthermore, the day Tom Brady took over the team, September 23rd, was the day leaving 99 days left in the year, and both New England and Patriot equate to 99 with simple English. Also, the date the Patriot Act was enacted, October 26th, leaves 66 days left in the year, and Patriot Act sums to 66 with reverse Pythagorean. Let us not forget 66 is the 11th triangular number, and football is a game of 11 on 11. And September 11th, 2001 was perhaps the greatest 11 ritual of all time. And on the subject of 66, ahead I will teach you about Jewish gematria, where the acronym NFL sums to 66, and 1966 was the start of the NFL's first Super Bowl season. In terms of how the news and sports are scripted together, it is for this reason that Tom Brady left the New England Patriots in 2020 at the time of coronavirus while the nation and its Patriots were falling, okay? The ritual is undeniable when you know gematria. For example, he made clear he was going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on March 16th, a date written 3/16 like 316, and Tampa Bay Buccaneers equates to 316 with reverse simple. Okay, furthermore, it was the next day, March 17th, that he officially signed with his new team. That was a date that could be written as 17-3 like 173, and this date matters because Knights Templar sums to 173 with simple English. Again, they were the order of knights that served the Catholic Church and its Pope until they were banned by the Church. Friday, October 13th, 1307. At that point, many of them fled and went into hiding, becoming pirates or buccaneers. Furthermore, Tom Brady moving on to play football in Florida at the age of 43 is no accident because both words equate to 43. Keep in mind the pirate symbolism in his new team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, also reminds us of the pirate symbolism in the Oakland Raiders. Excuse me. The team that was screwed with the Tuck rule, January 19, 2002, emphasis on 119, to launch the New England Patriots' very, very scripted dynasty that lasted nearly 2 full decades. And if you look carefully, you'll notice the skull and crossed sword symbolism of Tampa Bay Buccaneers logo is eerily similar to the skull and bones symbolism of the powerful Yale fraternity that had Bush in office thanks to Florida when 9/11 happened, as well as the emergence of Tom Brady, the New England Patriots, and the Patriot Act. With these topics in mind, I'd encourage you to look into maritime law, the law of the sea, and how it is what U.S. law is based in. These things are not an accident. Instead, they are evidence of who created this land we call the United States of America. And as we are learning, they are entities connected to the Catholic Church. Since we brought up Tom Brady's departure from the New England Patriots, we must also bring up Cam Newton of the Carolina Panthers being signed by the Patriots to replace him June 28, 2020, during the time of the George Floyd protests. In the wake of his signing, CNN ran a front-page story, "The New American Patriots," with an image of Colin Kaepernick, the NFL QB, who grew his hair out like a Black Panther and said he was paying tribute to 1968 Olympic protesters, as well as Beyonce, who dressed up as a Black Panther for the Super Bowl 50 halftime show, where Cam Newton lost, as well as Lin-Manuel Miranda, the rising star of the Broadway hit Hamilton, a play where black men replace men who were white, historically speaking, sort of like Newton replacing Brady. BS. Of course, Cam Newton is another star quarterback in the NFL who for all of his career has played with a Black Panther on his helmet as a black man playing for the Carolina Panthers, a team the Patriots defeated in Super Bowl 38, and where Panthers equates to 38 in Pythagorean. And in my opinion, he would have been the better one to grow out an afro than Kaepernick. Oh my goodness. And this BS shit they do. Okay. One more. Let's keep it going here. In light of this information, you must keep in mind the Black Panther Party was founded by Huey P. Newton, having the same surname as Cam Newton. The riddles don't end there, however. The name Huey P. Newton equates to 131 with reverse simple, and Cam Newton was born May 11, 1989, the 131st day of the year. In the same year, Huey P. Newton died on August 22nd. That date happened to be 83 days after Cam Newton was born, a number corresponding with the gematria of football and murder, both equating to 83. Again, 1983 was the year the song Murder by Numbers released. Beyond that, Newton's NFL career came to an unexpected pause in the previous season when he was benched by his head coach for a rookie, a storyline that has led to him signing with the New England Patriots with 131 career games played under his belt. You should know 131 is the 32nd prime, and both America and NFL equate to 32, the latter being the league with 32 teams, having 32 teams. Okay, gotcha. Furthering the parallels between Huey and Cam, in Super Bowl 50, the game Cam Newton and the Panthers lost to the Denver Broncos, Newton became the 58th QB to start in Super Bowl, corresponding with the gematria of Huey P. Newton in Pythagorean, as well as Oakland in simple English, both equating to 58, and the latter being where the Black Panther Party was established by Huey P. Newton in 1966, the first NFL Super Bowl season. I bring this up because Super Bowl 50 was played in the Bay Area, not far from Oakland. And you should also know I called why that would be the Super Bowl matchup and why the Broncos would win, and why number 58, Von Miller of the Broncos, would be the MVP of the game in October, 4 months before all of it happened, causing the USA Today's Big League to write a feature article about me while downplaying the relevance of what I was teaching, gematria, and how the NFL and the world of professional sports were rigged by the code and in accordance with the news and history. Something you can prove every single day with this knowledge, and that is absolutely correct. If you would like to read the article, it is titled Conspiracy Theorist Proves Freemasons Rigged AFC and NFC Championship Games by Ryan Phillips, January 27, 2016. You'll notice he pays tribute to the number 47 in the last paragraph, and not by accident. And for a similar read, you can examine the article Wacko YouTuber Proves World Series Was Rigged by Sean Newell of Vice News, also targeting me. If you do read the Vice article, notice he makes fun of my research on the number 52. Then after reading the article, take the time to decode his name, Sean Newell. As you will find out, his name equals 52, making him the perfect person to write what he did. This is crazy. And I'll add, had an article been written about me every time I called a sports championship seasons and months in advance based off this knowledge, there'd be many more articles to reference. And I'll also add, to further the point about Cam Newton and the Black Panther Party, his June 28, 2020 signing by the Patriots came on a span of 97 days after he was released by the Panthers on March 24th, 2020, and it was a span of 74 days after Bill Belichick's birthday, April 16, 2020. In addition to that, June 28, 2020, the date of the signing, had 74 date numerology, and Black Panther Party sums to 74 with Pythagorean, as well as 97 with reverse Pythagorean. Keep in mind, Bill Belichick also sums to 97 with simple English, and he won the Super Bowl in the 97th NFL season. You might recall that game had the 25-point comeback over the Falcons, equating to 55 with Pythagorean gematria on the date February 5th or 2-5 to conclude the 97th NFL season, where 97 is the 25th prime number, and it was the same season they moved the touchback to 25 yards from 20. Of course, the date of the Super Bowl could also be expressed as 5-2, like 52, and Belichick and Brady became 5-2 in Super Bowls together by the numbers. Coming back to 1968, one of the most important events of that year was the release of the film 2001: A Space Odyssey. It is about technology, and more specifically AI, or artificial intelligence, overtaking humanity. This phenomenon has a name, and it is called the singularity. It is when technology reaches a point that changes humanity forever, and there is no going back, in the sense that technology advances past the capability of humanity and begins to control humanity. Consider, this is a concept that is much easier to grasp in 2020 than it was in 1968 when the film was made. And speaking of the year, 2020, the year of coronavirus, you will notice in gematria terms, the word singularity and coronavirus are the exact same in all four ciphers, both summing to 155 in simple English, 56 in Pythagorean, 142 in reverse simple English, and 70 in reverse Pythagorean. And rest assured, by the end of the book, you will have notes full of how all four of these numbers have been used ritualistically day after day to contrive the coronavirus narrative in mainstream headlines. My goodness. But for now, do not forget that the term coronavirus was coined in 1968, the start of a planned age by the cabal, an age with a planned outcome to use technology to control humanity to a much greater extent than it ever had before. Fast forward 52 years later, the number corresponding with prophecy and technology using Pythagorean gematria to 2020, when we should all be seeing clearly. And this reality has never been more apparent. For example, two of the world's largest technology companies, Google and Apple, are cooperating with world governments to systematically track the location of every cell phone on the planet that are using their operating systems for the explained purpose of seeing if people are obeying what is being called the new normal, the laws being installed worldwide in the time of coronavirus. These laws include curfews, only traveling to certain locations, maintaining social distancing, wearing face coverings, and not posting or sharing information that goes against official narratives. Keep in mind, this level of surveillance is piggybacking off the Patriot Act installed after 9/11 that gave the U.S. government the right to track and monitor all of its citizens. Furthermore, the Patriot Act led to the collecting of untold bytes of data that are phone calls, text messages, emails, library visits, bank records, medical records, etc. of its people. Also, keep in mind, this was done in the snap of fingers to those who were told their entire lives they were free and protected from the government infringing on their privacy. And let us not forget, just prior to September 11th, Google was becoming a household name, and most people were getting small computers in their pockets that we call cell phones. It is this device specifically that has given Big Brother a way to peep into the lives and communications of its people. And it is this same device, now in the wake of coronavirus, that is being used to track our every movement. And it is this same device that is evolving with built-in AI that automates our tasks for us and answers our questions, always listening, and I repeat, always listening. Also, not by chance, the coronavirus pandemic, coronavirus summit to 56 in Pythagorean, is taking place at the same time 5G technology is rolling out worldwide that gives Big Brother the systems of surveillance capability to track as many phones with detail as they are. And doesn't 5G look a bit like 56? And it sure does. My goodness. Worse yet, U.S. citizens are being asked to snap photos of people violating mandatory mask orders and to send those images to government agency phone numbers so that facial recognition technology systems can be tested and improved by them. Of course, all of these infringements on our liberties are spoon-fed to us. They are introduced as caring gestures by the authorities to keep us safe, that we should welcome, or else fear being called paranoid or a conspiracy theorist by those around us. God forbid anyone question anything is the collective sentiment. And shouldn't we all feel safe now with the watchful eye of our governments on us? As we'll get to in later chapters, the U.S. surveillance system in the aftermath of coronavirus is known as the Trace Act and was introduced as H.R. 6666, not far off from 666, the number of the beast from Revelation. If you're not familiar with 666 and Revelation, there is a prophecy that the people of the world will be made to take the mark of the beast on either their forehead or their right hand, and if they do not, then they will not be allowed to buy or sell. In modern times, that could mean not being able to go to work, and that is coming for people who don't want to take this shot. No, I don't want to get this shot. Or go to school, or use any form of public transit, or shop at most markets. And on the subject of the number 666, it is no accident that Stanley Kubrick, the director of 2001: A Space Odyssey, died 666 days before January 1st, 2001, on March 7, 1999. It should also be noted that March 7th is the 66th day of the year, and number of the beast sums to 66 in Pythagorean gematria. And again, 666 is referred to in the Bible the text that is 66 books in length as the number of the beast. It's also not an accident that Microsoft, Bill Gates' old company, filed a patent on March 26, 2020 with the number W020000060606, clearly paying tribute to 666. This patent is for a future cryptocurrency that will monitor your rate of body movement, that will in turn calculate your earnings based on effort. Imagine what that will lead to. Sadly, these things should come as no surprise because the number 666 has been associated with computers since Apple priced their first consumer computer at $666.66 in 1976. This becomes all the more fascinating when you learn Sumerian and reverse Sumerian gematria, because the words such as computer and internet equate to 666 using them. With these ciphers, you multiply the simple English cipher and the reverse simple English cipher by 6. The ciphers are as follows, and I will show you these ciphers really quickly here so you can get a look at what these numbers are. I mean the letters and the numbers that coincide with the letter. Okay. So you have Sumerian gematria and reverse Sumerian gematria, and these ciphers are multiplied by 6. It is Sumerian gematria where computer equates to 666, and it is reverse Sumerian where internet equates to 666. And while we're at it, another word summing to 666 in reverse Sumerian is Genesis, the opening book of the Bible that tells the story of Adam and Eve and the forbidden fruit that is not to be eaten from. Now think of Apple's logo, the fruit with a missing bite. And for the most hardcore of coincidence theorists who might possibly be reading this page at this very moment, you are seriously going to shrug off. He said, are you seriously going to shrug off the $666.66 price as coincidence? Surely this isn't, nor is HR 6666. Absolutely. For a little more learning, there is one more cipher that you must know, and it is the most important outside of the base ciphers that you learned in chapter 1. It is known as Jewish gematria, and it pays tribute to the order of the English letters from when they were part of the Latin alphabet. The cipher also pays tribute to Hebrew gematria and Greek isopsephy in the way it assigns number values to letters. Before I reveal this cipher, I must inform you that isopsephy sums to 666 with reverse Sumerian, and remind you that Revelation 3:18 about the number of the beast, 666, is a Greek isopsephy riddle. So, and I'm about to show you the gematria, Jewish gematria cipher, and you know, you can always go to gematrinator.com and look at all of these ciphers, and that is the website that was created by a young man named Derek, and you know, and he has YouTube videos called Gematrinator 85. But that's the young man that created the website gematrinator.com. Okay? As was mentioned earlier, NFL sums to 66 in this cipher. Another relevant calculation to know based on the contents of this chapter is that Al-Qaeda sums to 102 with Jewish gematria, and the 9/11 attacks were said to have lasted 102 minutes. Again, connecting back to art of war. They even made a film about this fact titled 102 Minutes That Changed America. Better yet, Tisha B'Av sums to 9/11 with Jewish gematria, and it is the day to remember the destruction of the two temples similar to the Twin Towers. To get a little mathematical, 9/11 is the 156th prime number, and false flag sums to 156 in Jewish gematria. It only figures then from the date underground nuclear testing concluded September 23, 1992, to the date of the 93 World Trade Center bombing was 156 days later, reminding that Robert Kennedy, summing to 156 in simple English, was shot on June 5th, the 156th day of the year. And oddly enough, there are only two numbers, 0 through 100, that when written out as a word sum to 156 with simple English. They are 33 and 28. Space Odyssey also sums to 156 with simple English, and Kennedy sums to 33 with Pythagorean. This matters because the World Trade Center existed for 33 years, but they were only open for 28, having their grand opening on April 4th, 1973. In light of April 4th, recall where we began with Martin Luther King Jr. being killed on April 4th in 1968. In a non-leap year, April 4th is the 94th day of the year, connecting to the fact that World Trade Center sums to 94 with reverse Pythagorean, and terror sums to 94 with simple English. Thus, from the grand opening, their fate was sealed. As we mentioned prior, the Twin Towers fell 44 days after Tisha B'Av, a Jewish holiday that concluded July 29, 2001 in that year. The holiday is also known as the 9th of Av, summing to 44 with reverse Pythagorean. This brings us back to what I said at the beginning of the chapter. There is a number that ties together the assassinations of Martin Luther King Jr., Robert Kennedy, JFK, and Abraham Lincoln, and that number is 144. When you write out the word 44 and the date April 4th as words, they both sum to 144 in simple English, the same as Jesuit order. So MLK was shot on April 4th. Robert Kennedy was reported dead at 1:44 a.m. on June 6th. JFK, the 44th term president, died at the start of Sagittarius, summing to 144 with simple English, same as Kennedy cursed, and Abraham Lincoln was shot on April 14th, or 14/4, that looks like 144, in the year 1865. Even more, MLK's assassin not only died 44 days after his birthday, but he also died on a date with 144 numerology, April 23rd, 1998. You would add 4 plus 23 plus 19 plus 98. That equates to 144. As we covered in Chapter 1, this number not only connects to the Jesuit order, but also to the United States of America. More importantly, it is a number that represents time. In Jewish gematria, the word time itself sums to 144, complementing clock, summing to 44 with simple English. Beyond gematria, consider that each day on earth there are 1,440 minutes, and the square root of 144 is 12, the number we track the months of our year with, and the number of hours we divide the day with, Sorry about that. Like I said at the end of the first chapter, time is everything to these people, and the cabal, led by the Jesuits, lays down their rituals daily like clockwork, using the Bible scriptures, where 144 is a relevant number, especially to Hebrew gematria studies, largely because of how the number 144,000 is referenced in Revelation 7. For a few last points, JFK and RFK were killed at Dealey Plaza and the Ambassador Hotel, respectively, both summing to 54, same as Jesuit order, and reminding us that the thing dictating time, the sun, sums to 54 with simple English. Furthermore, one of Lincoln's assassins, John Surratt, was a Jesuit agent born John Harrison Surratt, equating to 266 with simple English and 95 with Pythagorean, both numbers that are extremely specific to the Jesuit order, that will come up time and time again as we progress through the pages of this book. Plus, let us not forget MLK was killed on the 95th day of 1968. And that is the conclusion of chapter 2. And I will be back soon to continue with chapter 3. The 222 months later from 9/11 to the coronavirus pandemic. And in the meantime, if you want to get this book, Number Games 9/11 to Coronavirus, you can order it from Amazon. It is available for a pre-order. And the book will be released on October 13th. If you don't want to order from Amazon, you can go directly to Zachary K. Hubbard's blog page, gematriaeffectnews.blogspot.com, and the first thing you'll see when you get to that page is the advertising for the book. And as you scroll through the information, you'll see how to purchase the book within the United States and abroad. And also, if you want to get the book Letters and Numbers, his very first book, visit his YouTube channels, Gematria Effect News or Gematria Effect Sports, and in the description of each of his videos, he leaves a link for you to purchase the book. The book costs $5. It will come to you via email as a PDF file, so be sure to save the file. He left the copyright off this book so that you can have it bound into a book for your own personal library. But at any rate, be sure to get these books, learn this information, share the information. Give this video a like and a share so that someone else can find the information and learn about gematria. Until then, I'll see you guys later, and thanks for watching, and thanks for listening. You guys have a good day.